Hello guys, here is Emmanuel from DiceTuga, and today we are going to talk about 10 red flags that you should be aware, at least that's the ones that I am always verifying when I'm about to invest my money on a project on Kickstarter or Gamefound. Recently I got a little bit frustrated with all the Gamefound and Kickstarter projects by the way that some publishers decide to do their campaign. And that's one of the reasons that I turned myself to the second-hand market, because I think that you can find good games, not to wait too much, and enjoy almost immediately the game that you want to purchase, instead of waiting for 2 or 3 years. So that's why I'm making this video, and without further ado, let's just jump right in. Number one, and this is a stamp that they really like to do, it's the funded in 2 minutes. This is just, for me, a tactic, a marketing or whatever, to make people believe that their game is so good, and it might be, but that the game is so good that everybody invested their money immediately and it was funded in 2 minutes. Well, the secret here is that most of the times they set their goal quite ridiculously low, like some publishers and some games that have a huge amount of hype. They know that there will be a lot of investment from people, from backers, and they set the goal very low so that everybody invests in first or 2 minutes and they unlock the goal immediately. And last year there was this is a perfect example, at least that's one that I noticed, with Bot Factory from Eagle Griffin Games. I tried the game on a convention, and when the game was on I think on Gamefound or Kickstarter, I don't know, I was surprised that it took some time for the game to fund, it was not funded in 2 minutes or even 1 hour or 2 days. It took some time. I was like, I don't understand. It's Eagle Griffin Games, it's Vitor Lacerda, João Quintela Martins, and the game is not funding. What's going on? Well, maybe what was going on is that their goal was realistic and it just took some time to get there. And that's it, and it's fine. But I understand that you get excited and almost immediately back something that had a lot of hype, and you see the others do, and you want to do the same. But that's my first red flag, my number one, and that's funded in 2 minutes stamp. Number two is very important to me, which is no rule book or gameplay videos. I get immediately twitchy, like scratching my neck when I see a Gamefound or Kickstarter campaign that doesn't have a rule book. That can mean a lot of things. One of them might be that the rule book is not yet complete, that there's still some play testing, and that worries me. So, and I did back some that didn't have a rule book. I mean, you need to learn with your mistakes. But from right now, I really check if there is a rule book or not. Recently, I was about to spend 300 euros on a game that had no rule book, and that's when it made click. I cannot spend that amount of money. If I'm giving you 300 euros, the least you can have is a rule book to explain your game properly, or at least videos that explain it. And even though that the campaign that I'm talking about had videos, they were 3-hour long video or 1 hour long video. In a campaign, I want to know quickly how the game works, and I need like maximum 15-minute video that explains the flow of the game and not a playthrough, right? I might use that playthrough as a next step. I first check those 15 minutes and then that was interesting, let me check how the game runs. But not only that, I don't want to have only the video of 3 hours. I want to understand the mechanics and so on. So I said to myself, I cannot do it. The rule book appeared, I think, like 3 days before the end of the campaign on TTS, and the day before last of the campaign on PDF. So you cannot ask people to invest that much of money 2 days before the end of the campaign and read a rule book that had like 30 pages. So for me, it's a very important one. No gameplay videos, no rule book. I am on a step back. Number 3 is expansion with a lot of miniatures and deluxeified components and this and that. You are never going to take out all those expansions. There is games that if you place the expansion, the miniature on the table, and the miniature stays there for the whole session, okay, I'm for it. But if it's a miniature that you roll a die, you have no luck, an enemy appears, you need to take out the miniature and put it on the table, and then you have a shotgun, you roll a die and you are very lucky and you kill that bastard, guess what? You'll have to take it back and put it back on the box. That is not immersive at all for me. I don't want. And at some point I just like remove it from there, or I don't even put it. I just mark it with a cube or something. You can make fun as you want, but I play sometimes a cube just not to take out the miniatures. That's how frustrated with it I am. And so they are beautiful. Yes, they are beautiful miniatures. There is some publishers that do amazing. And if you are into painting and so on, maybe it's interesting. And I'm not against miniatures, but there must be a game as well following those miniatures. And sometimes those expansions and those miniatures, they are just there to grab your eye, to not, for you not to see that they have no game. That's all that it is. And that's my number 3 red flag, which is a lot of expansions. Number 4 is a bit related to the expansions, and is a lot of stretch goals and add-ons, but mainly stretch goals. And the stretch goals, there's 2 scenarios. The stretch goals, they are either already planned, and so for me it makes no sense that they are not already included in base game, because if you plan to produce those, just make them available for everybody. Or and certainly if it's an expansion that has content, not only miniatures, but if the stretch goal is a brand new expansion, that worries me a little bit, because if it doesn't contain a rule book, and if it was unlocked due to the stretch goal, it means that it might not have been play tested enough, and it might just be a fail, you know. So on the stretch goals, some of them might be interesting, but others, like for example, artwork books. I mean, if it was a game about Lord of the Rings and the game was the artist behind on that game were like the artists behind the trilogy of movies, oh yeah, of course I'm going to get it. But if it's an artwork for, I don't know, for the point salad game, I mean, that's not a stretch goal. So sometimes they fill up. Look, there's another stretch goal if we get there, and you get like, I want everything, and most of those stretch goals, they say Kickstarter exclusive, Gamefound exclusive. So it will make you go, instead of the base game, you will want to go for the bigger package that contain all the stretch goals and so on, because you don't want to miss out, right? So yeah, that's my number 4. A lot of stretch goals and add-ons and so on. Number 5 is one that is very important for me, because I live in Europe, and this is not really a red flag, it is kind of a red flag, but it's also something where I make a decision. Most of the times this is very straightforward. If this is free, I consider it. If it's not free, I might do some calculation and I might not back the game at all. And it's, in particular case, the VAT. If the VAT is not included on the price and on the shipping, I'm probably going to skip that one out. It just becomes super expensive. I already had to pay once without knowing, when I was still starting on this thing of Gamefound and Kickstarter. I didn't realize about the VAT and differs from country to country, and I had to pay, I think, 60 euros of VAT that yeah, it's already a big amount of money that you have to pay for the game or for the all-in pack, let's call it. And after, when you realize that you have to pay 60 euros of VAT because you forgot to do the calculation, it can be a bit frustrating. So pay attention if you're in an area that the VAT is not free. Do the proper calculations to calculate your own VAT to be sure that you are not going to pay a crazy amount at the time that you need to pay for your pledge. And that was my number 5, the VAT. Number 6. This game is very innovative. Nowadays, it's very hard to get something that was never done before. And whatever you get is most of the times something that already existed with a twist. Worker placement with a twist. Deck builder with a twist. And so on. So stop calling your game innovative. And that's just something to, again, catch the eye of someone that is not used to this, to be like, oh wow, yes, this looks, you can place meeples on a certain location and they do an action. Oh wow, that's very interesting. Well, guess what, there's a lot of games that do that, okay? And so probably it's just because I didn't even play a lot of games, and you don't need to play a lot of games to recognize those patterns. So if a game calls its main mechanic innovative, raise your red flag and go really check if it's really an innovative mechanic. And I'll bet with you that they probably don't have any rulebook or video or GIF explaining that thing. Number 7. Pay attention to the delivery planning that the publisher provides, because if they tell you that, depending on of course it all depends on the size of the game, but if they tell that the game with 4 big box expansions is going to be released, imagine that the campaign ends at November 2023, and they tell you that it will be available for backers in August 2024, it's not going to happen. So that's another red flag. Pay attention to the planning and how detailed is the planning, because at the end, this is your money. You are going to spend sometimes a lot of money, and there are situations when people will lose this money. This can happen. It doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen that people will lose this money. Unfortunately, this year already saw 2 situations where that happened, and I don't know if it's a trend, if it's going to become more recurrent, but yeah, we will see. So that's why you really need to be careful on where you put your money nowadays. Number 8, reputation. The reputation of the publisher is something that I also pay very close attention. And there's a couple of them that if they just put the game out, I'm not going to back. I'm also not going to say in this video which one it is, but there's a couple of publishers that I'm staying away from them, because I've seen situations of them removing comments in the social networks that they didn't like, and it was not even comments that were treating them by names or something like that. It was comments of asking questions to understand how people invested money and they were going to lose money. So of course you start asking questions. There was no they didn't care. They just deleted those comments, and sometimes you need to check as well if there is more than one project that those publishers are doing on Kickstarter, because as a company it might be very intense to have 2 or 3 games on a campaign at the same time. So always be careful on that, because not always one or two games might be successful, the other one might not be. So that's something that you need to pay attention. And along with the number 8 comes number 9, which is publishers or the people that are managing the page. The campaign doesn't answer, or there is no update. So that happened a lot with COVID. Sometimes it's just because they suck at communication. I mean, we are not all the same, and some people don't know how to communicate problems. But sometimes they just don't communicate because a bigger bomb is going to appear. And no communication for me, it's always a red flag. No updates, at least monthly updates, is also a big red flag that I don't like. And sometimes they just do the updates when they are releasing a new game because they want to use this update to call you for the other campaign. So that's also one red flag that I pay attention. And in hand with number 9, we have number 10, which is a red flag that actually is already too late. It's only a red flag that can be used as a reference for new games that or new campaigns that might come from those publishers, which is asking for money. Yeah, I mean, don't need to talk about the case that is currently in trend today. Everybody knows it, but it's not the first time that it happens, that publishers didn't do their calculations right, or they are not doing their management properly. Something is happening and they need to ask money to the backers. And if you don't give, a lot of times you will just not get your copy, but you also are not getting your money. So your money is gone, and it will be used to pay salaries or whatever. I don't know how it works, but even if you give that ransom, or they call it ransom, but even if you give that extra money, it might happen that that the game doesn't see the light of day, because there's no guarantees that they did it right the second time. I'm not saying that you should not help, because it already happened with smaller publishers during COVID, with the change of shipping and so on, that I was asked for extra money, but it was not more than 10 euros. For me, it's fine. The case I'm talking here is something around 70, 100s. That's a lot of money. That's another game. That's all. I mean, and I'm not saying that it's 70 euros for a 250 all-in pledge. No, 70 euros for maybe a base game or something like that. So that's unfortunately already too late. It will be only used as a red flag for a future project, and they all go all together. When a publisher doesn't communicate, when they ask for money, and that contributes for their reputation, pay attention. And that was it, guys. Those were my those were my 10 red flags that I usually follow to consider and evaluate if I should invest my money on a Gamefound or Kickstarter campaign. I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have other red flags that I didn't mention in the video. I'm very curious to know, and it might be helpful for me to make better decisions in the future. The ones that I made were already bad enough. So thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Yeah, by the way, I always forget to tell this in my videos, but don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. This will help for the algorithm. And you can always follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. See ya!